shows up, we might be talking to
A,
ourselves.
a hope and a prayer. Well, when we started doing this kind of thing, it was always just you and I.
Right. Well, hey, we're back literally to square one. Is there an echo in here? Is there anybody out there? We got one person, so we're not going to be alone.
Well, I'm thinking this is going to be one of those nights that we probably ought to go to the commercial really fast and then start sharing it out. It's like starting from scratch.
It is. Well, we'll sit here and ramble for a minute. We got four people, so hey, we could almost have a party, have a Super Bowl party. Well, Super Bowl's already gone. So anyway,
That's right. That's right. Well, I got to tell you, I feel educated today.
educated. You got edumacated today, huh? So
I-
I feel educated too. Let me hear how you got educated, though.
Well, considering how you already know how much of my time was spent in a courtroom today, um, you might have got the same education that I did. But what I did learn is that I'm thinking that if you're a public official and you're conducting the public's business on your personal cell phone or email or any of that, if anybody ever seeks to get it, all you got to say, y'all listen close, all you got to say is well, I looked and I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's basically the same. Here's the education I got: that apparently David Montgomery is um, too. Oh, I don't know. How shall we put it? He needs a ride for anybody that can do this. He needs a ride down to the local Verizon store to go in and talk to him and get his cell phone records because apparently he's too incompetent to do that. That is what I learned today.
Yeah, if it surpasses a certain time frame, the cell phone records apparently don't exist. There's no way to go back in time and get cell phone records. Yep. Y'all hear that,
Apparently
audience?
not. Hey, we got 10 whole people, so that was including us. That makes a dozen of us. We're glad to have all 10 of you because honestly, we didn't really expect hardly anybody tonight. We kind of put this. We've been hitting about it. We kind of put this together at the last minute and just decided to hit the live button. So yeah, it was quite the interesting ordeal in the courtroom today, and we'll switch over to our Louisiana Watch topics here in a little bit. But it was quite the interesting deal, and this really has a bearing statewide because it was over public information requests, and that applies to everybody.
Yeah, it's pretty much the public's right to have access to information. I mean, so pretty much elected officials can just conduct business on their private cell phones or whatever, and then just say that, well, I don't have it,
Yeah,
and they can escape, scrutiny of public, business.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the law be damned. Now, I did learn today that, and I hadn't verified that this was correct, but I'll guess that it was, that they're required to keep those records, not just cell phone records, any records for what was it, 3 years? Did I hear that
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah, I think that's correct. 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I should know that from all the public information requests we've done, and I've looked up the law, but I just, hadn't looked it up in a while. So,
Hey, now on our last show of Bossier Watch, we left something out.
and
We,
what was that?
well, Walk on Water has been busy.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, Walk on Water he's been putting the gavel down up there. You didn't
Has he
know?
actually been getting something accomplished? Have they
Well,
reduced the Washington D.C. debt? Have they closed the border? Have they done any? What have they done?
well, look, let's let him speak for himself. I mean, share my screen and I'll tell you. But I mean, him and everybody else in DC, they have just been a utter mess up there. But don't take my word for it. You just need to listen to them out of their own mouths.
Oh, so shall I switch screens and shall we show them?
Yeah, let's
All
hear it.
right. So here we go. A little entertainment, folks. Let me click this button. Up here we go. We're gonna probably get kicked off the platform the first get go. So if we do, we're on YouTube. If we get kicked off YouTube, we're on Facebook. We're not on Twitter yet, but just follow us around. So yeah, whenever you're ready, go ahead and hit play, Mr.
Well,
Lowry.
Well, let's see what Mike accomplished this week. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's it. You're impeached.
For what?
Dereliction of duty, among other things.
What? I thought I was doing a good job.
Clearly not.
Oh, come on, man. I thought I closed it. Give me a second chance. I'll close it this time, I promise.
Nope, that's it. You're impeached.
The impeachment thing was my idea.
Now let's celebrate by sending more money to Ukraine.
This is truly the darkest day in American history.
I can't take credit for this. I didn't do this one.
My orphanage is this. Orphanage?
What did she say?
Whatever the hell his name is.
Something
it was
orifice?
Or it was closed. Nobody was sitting in. This doesn't make any sense.
This is clearly Trump and the MAGA Republicans' fault. They impeached Secretary Mayorkas for doing his job.
They said
the border is secure,
Secretary
and the
Mayorkas.
Republicans want it open. What we need to be focused on is the most important thing America has ever done, and that's giving more money to Ukraine.
Okay. I think I've heard enough.
I've heard enough.
Okay, let me get this.
I've heard enough.
I'm going to have to get busy learning to do those deep fake videos even better than the one that we did over on Bozier Watch. I've got to get busy with that. These guys have a lot of time on their hands.
Well, hey, before we go to the little break and before we try to share out and get a few more folks in here, we appreciate all of you that are here. We, like Rex said, we're trying to get Louisiana Watch kicked back off. And part of that is because, there's a lot of things that are not Bozier issues. We've had a lot of requests of us to start delving off into other issues. And it's been a little problematic for us. I'm going to say problematic, but as closely as we try to follow the Bozier specific politics and then mix in statewide politics, or politics or issues outside of Bozier, it kind of, it makes for too much content and we need to kind of spread it out a little bit, right?
I agree. And I want to say and be very clear, this time we're not having an identity crisis. So we're pushing to the Louisiana Watch page on Facebook, the Louisiana Watch channel on YouTube. We'll have it on Twitter and all the other platforms and all that. And we are starting at show number 101. This is the very first show of the return of Louisiana Watch, and we're going to number up incrementally from there. So I hope we eliminate that confusion. But you're right, Duke. There's a lot of topics that are not as Bozier specific as we cover on Bozier Watch that we need to get the word out. And sometimes the Bozier Watch folks, don't necessarily want to know what's going on over there, like across the river where Wade Lovelace, who's watching in the comments, over there on the Shreveport side of the river, or the regional or Baton Rouge.
Or for example, Jamie Marie Pope down there in central Louisiana, they have their own little problems down there. And, frankly, I mean, it is things that need to be paid attention to, but not necessarily things that Bozier people care about. Right. But it still is worthy of reporting on and talking about.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. It'll, for those of you that are familiar with those guys over on Bozier Watch, the format will be very similar to that, obviously, but again, much more widespread. All right, you ready to go do the countdown and the ad break, and we'll share and tag folks and do all that sort of thing?
Let's do it to it.
All right, so folks, hey, we're up over 20 people now, so we're very proud of that. We're going to go ahead and do our little countdown, our little ad intro. That'll take about 3.5 or 4 minutes. That'll put us at about 10 or about 12 minutes into the show. That gives people plenty of time to get their notifications, gives you time to make a stiff drink, make some popcorn, and tag and share this out. Let folks know we're on a Thursday night for a few hours, and we'll be right back. Here we go, Mr. Lowry. Well, I thought we were. Let's try it again. This live broadcast is brought to you by Eagle Truck Center, soaring to new heights. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
I ain't had time to grab no popcorn.
I hadn't either. I've been clicking and sharing. So I guess I dust the cobwebs off. I probably need to update the Acadiana Mortgage ad. Like we hadn't, what has it been? A year and a half since we've done a Louisiana Watch?
Oh, it's had to be longer than that.
I don't even remember when the last one was.
Because didn't that say 23 years? And I mean, we're past 25 years now.
Yeah, maybe it's been almost 2 years. Wow.
I mean, I hate that we let it go, but the thing was that it just got too overwhelming, or maybe it was because there was so much stuff going on in Bossier that, it got a little too difficult to manage. But I think now that we are new and improved, that I think we can manage it now.
I think so. We've got some big plans, and relaunching Louisiana Watch is part of those big plans. Jamie Marie, I have never had an Italian mule. Granted, I haven't drank much in a long time. What is an Italian mule? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, so for those of you watching, as you see the topics in the middle right there, and we appreciate all of you being here. And, for this first starting over show, we reached out to a good friend, Thomas Pressley, who, is one of the legislators that has been very involved. I think, at least from what I've seen on his social media pages regarding the Blue Cross Blue Shield thing. And I need to check with him real quick and remind him to go ahead and log in.
Well, speaking of that, he is logging in right now. He is in the green room, so I don't think anybody else can hear him, but give me just a second. We'll get started on that. I'm doing a little network wizardry here to try to make sure we have a good stream. Okay.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfect. So you want me to go ahead and switch screens, Duke, and we'll bring Thomas on?
Let's bring him in.
All right, so let me click here. They can't see me yet, but let me do this, and presto.
Hey!
by the magic of the interwebs, it worked.
Now, Thomas, we've got to know the most important question that we're going to ask you all night. Do you know what an Italian mule is?
I do not know what an Italian mule is.
Well, Jamie Marie Pope is commenting in the comments, and she is asking us if we've ever had an Italian mule. And I got to admit, I don't know.
I have no idea either. Don't feel alone, Tom.
Is it a drink? I'm assuming it's a drink.
Well, that's what we're hoping it is as well, too, but she hasn't said yet.
No telling with her, so. Oh, look. Hold on. They found David Womack. We were trying to get David Womack on the show. Apparently, he was at Whataburger or something. Now, David Womack's in the comments, so glad to have you, David. Okay, sorry, dude. Go ahead.
Well, now, Thomas, I didn't tell you whenever I called you and asked, hey, would you come on, that I was setting you up, because we haven't done a Louisiana Watch in a long time. So me and Rex really didn't know whether anyone would even be watching tonight. But apparently there's
I'm excited.
Yeah. So look, let's get down serious here. So the Blue Cross Blue Shield thing. And the only reason I'm not picking on you, but for whatever reason in my social media, your posts about the issue popped up more in my feed than any other legislator. Not that they weren't, because I think y'all all were, but it struck me that so many legislators were weighing in on that issue. So what was the motivation by so many legislators weighing in on it? And maybe you can expand on it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you've got over 40% of Louisianians that have Blue Cross Blue Shield policies. So it's certainly on the minds of all of us that, want to make sure that our constituents have good quality health care. And part of that is, having quality health insurers. So when we dug in to what was going on through a oversight hearing last week, which was of the Senate Health and Welfare and Insurance Committees. We had an 8.5-hour hearing where we had testimony from Elevance, from the Department of Insurance, from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and from the public. And we learned a great deal about what was going on, about some of the concerns that we had. I really walked away with three main issues. One was the way the vote was being conducted. Blue Cross Blue Shield was spending $20 million putting proponent information out, trying to get the deal done. Their executives stood to gain a large amount of money individually and personally. So that was certainly, a concern, is the way they were doing the vote. They admitted on the record that they were having phone calls made by the same organization that would end up counting the votes or counting the proxies. And they were providing proponent information, and then they were taking votes on the phone during those proponent conversations. And that was just mind-blowing to me, that a mutual company that has a fiduciary duty to its policyholders was doing that without putting any information about what they were doing as far as the sale. The second thing, which really leads into that, was the history that Elevance has. Elevance is also known as Anthem. They have a name change that went on, and people know Anthem. But when we did some digging, the Georgia Inspector General did an investigation of their policies, and they found that 33.7% of the time they were denying the health care that a doctor had recommended. Wow. And certainly I was concerned about that. They also have $1 billion in fines since 2000 for bad acts, including consumer complaints. And I just had a really hard time sitting by while Blue Cross was saying, we want you to do this, without the other side being known by the policyholders that were making the vote. And then the final thing was they've got a $3 billion foundation that they were trying to set up if the sale had gone through. And that foundation had very little information about it. We didn't know who was going to be in control of the $3 billion or the money that would be provided yearly off of that $3 billion $1 billion out there. But certainly we want to know more information about who was going to be in charge of it. They told us 11 people that they were going to select from, and the people that are currently on the board, 4 individuals would be selecting the others to serve on that board. That was concerning. But the biggest concern was that we didn't know what the money was going to be spent for. There was a lot of hopefullys, we think, maybes, that were provided during the testimony, and we all walked away with really this puzzled look of how do we address this? How do we make sure that policyholders are aware of what's about to be their health insurer, and are they going to be good for the state of Louisiana? We ended up that committee put together a list of 30 items that we needed to address and felt like needed to be addressed by the Department of Insurance prior to allowing that to go through. Of course, Blue Cross Blue Shield ended up pulling the merger, at least for now, yesterday. And so we're going to continue to monitor it. We still have outstanding questions that we asked during that committee hearing that we'd like to get more information on. And look, I'm still committed to finding out the answers for the people of Louisiana. We don't have a vote in the legislature, nor do I think we should, on whether or not Blue Cross Blue Shield can sell. But I do think it's our duty and our responsibility to put the information out there so that the public can make that decision for themselves. And the 1.9 million individuals that have Blue Cross Blue Shield policies in the state of Louisiana will have that information as well.
I got to. Oh, I'm sorry, Rex.
Oh, no, go ahead, Duke. I got a question when you get through, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I mean, that number, statistically, 40%, I didn't know it was that high. I mean...
Yeah, it's 1.9 million people that have Blue Cross Blue Shield policies. Now, what's interesting is only somewhere between 90 and 95,000 people actually, and entities, had the right to vote. So it's not the whole gamut that gets the vote. It's just the policyholders as defined within their policy. So it's, if you work for a company, the company likely would have one vote. And the people that are, having that insurance don't get the voice, but the business that's paying for it would.
Yeah, that is absolutely accurate, because I will tell you, I'm one of that 40% or 1.9 million, and our business, we have a Blue Cross policy, have had it, gosh, I think ever since we started our company. And you're right, and I will tell you, here is an example of what you're saying, and this is the best example of government at work. And legislators and politicians get beat up a lot, but a hat tip is deserved in this case, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I call myself as being on top of things. I'm in the loop a little bit, and
Sure.
I did not know that this was even happening until I'm seeing legislators, y'all, raising the alarm on social media. And then I show up at the office, and there it is. There's this letter with a vote with the number of employees that we have, one vote with the number of employees we have for a proxy. And I'm like, holy crap. Well, how did this sneak up on me? And I didn't know.
Well, wait a minute though. Let me add in a little bit, and Thomas, you can address this if you're aware of it. But from what I've read, and again, I'm not well versed on the whole situation yet, but this is not the first time that Blue Cross Blue Shield has attempted and delayed this. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. They tried last summer to do the same thing, and they ended up pulling it. At that time, they were very clear that they were going to try again. This go around, the initial information was that they were pulling it and they had no intent to move forward again. As the day wore on yesterday and into today, it certainly sounds like it's more of another delay. So again, I've reached out to Patrick McMath, who's the chair of the Health and Welfare Committee on the Senate side that chaired the committee that we had last week. And asked him to make sure that our staff goes ahead and pushes Blue Cross Blue Shield and Elevance for the answers to the questions that they said they needed to get back to us on. I just think it's really important that we continue to monitor this, that the public is aware of the information, and certainly those 90 or 95,000 individuals that have a vote have the information on both sides to make an educated decision on whether or not to move forward with this sale.
All right, so we had a question in the comments, Jamie Marie Pope, and I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'll read it. It says, what are your thoughts on Mike Eccles' Louisiana statement, or the statement that the Blue Cross Blue Shield leadership needs to go? They did spend a lot of time saying they can't do their job. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, they said they couldn't do their job. They spent $20 million of mutual it's a mutual company. So the individuals that own the company are those 90 or 95,000 people. Look, my job as a legislator, I don't believe, is to make a decision on whether or not a private company should keep its leadership. But I certainly think it's important for the 95,000 people that have a voice to see what's going on and to make the decision based on facts and data. And the truth is that they've now tried this twice. They've said we need to do it for X, Y, and Z reasons. And I certainly have concerns about their ability to move forward as the leaders of one of Louisiana's biggest companies.
I would absolutely agree with that. Okay, so from this point forward, they've agreed to delay this again, and then they'll probably try to start it up in the future. Do we know what from this point forward what happens?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's certainly what it seems like it's going to be is them trying to move forward again. I don't know, but I do think that we are now our eyes are on it. I think it's the best way to say it. I don't think this is something that's just going to sneak up on the public. It's certainly not going to sneak up on those of us that were on the committee last week. We certainly want to make sure that the public is aware of some of the challenges that Elevance has had in other states, and get real answers to those concerns.
Okay, good enough.
Well, Well, Thomas, appreciate all that information on Blue Cross Blue Shield personally, and for everybody out there in Louisiana. I think all of the legislators that stepped up deserve some credit for being on their toes on that one. Thank you. Um, so y'all have a special session coming regarding crime, and I kind of looked through the call the other day, and I really didn't see anything contentious in my opinion. It seemed to me that probably the majority of the issues that there wouldn't be a lot of disagreement. So I said I'm going to ask you. Is there anything that really might be contentious in your opinion?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I think is contentious is the possibility of drawing a Supreme Court map during the special session. We tried that during the last special, the first special that was 2 weeks after we got sworn in. I've got real concerns with the map that was initially presented. Certainly for our part of the state, splitting Caddo and Bossier into different Supreme Court districts, I think really is a disadvantage for our region. And then splitting Caddo in half along lines that really make no sense. I live in South Highlands, and my parents live less than 2 blocks away from me on the other side of Line Avenue, and they're in a different district. So you're splitting an older neighborhood that's well established on non-traditional lines. It makes no sense. And I've got real concerns about the way that map was drawn initially that garnered the most support. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to reach some sort of consensus. I do think we need to redraw our Supreme Court lines. They haven't been redrawn since the early 90s. And before that, it was almost 100 years. So, that's something that I'm certainly interested in. On the crime side, look, I think, there is tremendous consensus on the issues that are in this call. I think bipartisan consensus on a large majority of the items. We've got to get crime under control in this state if we're going to be able to move forward, particularly in our big cities. When you look at crime in New Orleans and in Baton Rouge and in Shreveport, we've got a crime problem. A lot of that crime is dealing with juveniles, which is why you see a significant amount of the items in the call dealing with juvenile crime. I am certainly interested in addressing that. I think my colleagues are as well, and trying to get the state moving again. You have to create safety first. We can do tax policy, we can do insurance reform, we can do education reform, but the bottom line is if people don't feel safe in this state, they are not going to move here. They are not going to stay here, and they are not going to raise their kids here.
All right, okay, so that's a nice segue, and Jamie Marie Pope just popped a question, but I was going to ask anyway because I ask everybody. So there is a Senate, I believe a Senate bill and a House bill. I forget who the authors are or whatever right now on constitutional carry. I have a feeling Danny McCormick's on the House side. So
wait a minute, Danny McCormick. Wait a minute, Danny brings that bill every single year, and now all of a sudden,
yeah.
Danny's going to get pushed to the back.
All right. So,
yeah, look, I supported it the last couple of times it's come through the House. I'll continue to support constitutional carry. I believe it's a constitutional right. I'm a constitutional conservative. I think that's important. We have not seen the spike in crime that people want to point to in the other states that surround us that have done constitutional carry. Blake Miguez is actually the one bringing it on the Senate side. I don't know which bill will get through, but I do think one of the two certainly will get through the process.
Well, there you go, Jamie Marie. We got the answer.
I don't know what bills that you're planning on bringing down the road in a regular session, or if you even got any on your mind. But I think if you took insurance and you just classed it as a crime in Louisiana, I think that'd be the appropriate place to class it, because it is.
In every context, health insurance, property insurance, tort. We have an insurance crisis in the state. There's no question about it. And while we laugh about it a little bit, the bottom line is it's an additional tax to the people of Louisiana. Certainly in South Louisiana with the property issues that they're facing. Look, I am not one that I voted against our last special session in 2023. Let me do some math there, which was by then Insurance Commissioner Donilon trying to entice insurance companies to move to the state of Louisiana by putting a $40 million deal together that would give them an incentive to come here. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that, if you have, B and C and D rated insurance companies coming to Louisiana and you have one storm that hits the south part of our state, they're gone. And the insurance holders are in deep trouble too, because they're not going to have money to be able to pay them. So I voted against that, but I do think we have to have insurance reform. A lot of that comes from the tort side of things. I'm an insurance defense lawyer, so I certainly see it on a daily basis on the tort side. We've seen it on the property side as well. But we need to create a system that works. And that's equitable and fair for the people that have to have insurance, right? I mean, we all need insurance, especially on the property side. You've got to have it in order to have a mortgage. We're now at the point of crisis where some people are paying more for homeowners insurance than they are for their mortgage. It's nuts. And we've got to fix it. I certainly think the fortified homes incentive package makes some sense, particularly in the southern portion of our state. But for those of us in North Louisiana, subsidizing those programs is also, is that the best thing in the long haul? That's something that we have to consider as well. But we have to work on allowing insurance companies to come here to make a little bit of profit, and to provide the services that are necessary for the state. On the tort side, I think we've got a whole lot of tort reform that needs to come down the pipe. I certainly am planning on bringing a couple pieces of legislation. Some legislation has already been filed on this issue. But there's several of us that are in the legislature that are on the insurance defense side and on the defense side of civil litigation generally. I think we see it every day. I had a case today that I thought was just absurd how much money the other side wanted in order to try to get this thing resolved. Those are things that need to be looked at. On the other side, if someone comes in and is really hurt, we need to make sure that they're able to get the services that they need from that private individual, instead of going to the government and saying, look, I got hurt and now I need, a check for the rest of my life to be able to pay for the living cost and other things. So it's a balance. There's no question about that, but certainly something on our minds as well as we go into the regular session.
Oh, we'll definitely have to get you back on to talk some more about the insurance on that side of it, because that's a hot topic too.
I got to get in here and I got to say this. I think that is one of the big impediments to our state moving forward, because it's not just whether or not a homeowner can get a fair rate on homeowners insurance, but you alluded to the fact of someone in North Louisiana getting a rate maybe based off of the things that happen in South Louisiana. There's a disparity there, and it's not fair. But I would also point out that small business is being killed by insurance. And I'll give you an example, and this is a personal example. One, I had to move my small oil field service company out of Louisiana strictly because of insurance and being jerked around by insurance companies out of Louisiana. Moved it to Oklahoma, and I got to tell you, it's heaven. It's heaven. And recently, and this is an example, I've tried to repatriate the company back to Louisiana, and it's trucking oil field, just for I'm going to say this, a insurance package with over 5 units, and I've got a rate for over those 5 units, just trying to bring 1 unit back to Louisiana, and the rate on 1 unit is more than the total policy for 5 units in Oklahoma. You got to be kidding me. There's a problem there. And that's just one example small business face. So I hope that you guys can really get something done down there, because I
No,
know.
no doubt, Duke. And I'll tell you, I mean, I represent a lot of small trucking companies, and a lot of them have done exactly what you're saying. They're leaving Northwest Louisiana and going to South Arkansas or going to East Texas to Oklahoma for the insurance policy or insurance rates being significantly lower. I mean, it's not sustainable. And I think, you know, when you look at the plaintiff bar and the amount of commercials that they're putting out there, you know, it's been for decades. And you know, you've changed the trajectory of a lot of jury verdicts in this state as well. I mean, the verdicts are significantly higher than they are in some other states. And I think a lot of that's because of the culture that we have, where you turn on the TV during the day and every second commercial at least is an advertising for, you know, some plaintiff lawyer that gave me, you know, X amount of money, and the person looks just fine. And the same thing with the billboard industry. You've got billboard after billboard as you drive around, and people just get used to it, and they think that that's part of it, and that there's a bottomless amount of money available by insurance companies. But the truth is that insurance companies make their money and are able to pay out, you know, policies for accidents based on the money that we all pay into the system. And so that is a real challenge that we have in Louisiana, is just the culture of the plaintiff bar being so prevalent, and the money continuing to go that route. But, you know, unless we're willing to make the tough choices, unless we're willing to drive jobs and opportunities to Louisiana, which includes making sure that we're not a judicial hellhole, as we've been listed for the last over a decade by most magazines that look into this issue, we're not going to be able to change the state. And so that's what I'm encouraged by, you know, the governor, by the legislature. And when you look at the campaigns that were run last fall, almost all of us that were elected on the Republican side, if not all of us, did so saying that we wanted jobs and opportunities to come to Louisiana. This is one step in that direction. I think occupational licenses are another step in that direction, and I certainly plan on bringing some legislation on that front. And then tax reform is huge as well. And the tax reform will come next year when we're in a session that we can actually address taxes. But we also have to start working on the spending side. That's how you can really address the tax side, is by looking at the spending.
Well, I think we could beat you all night long on questions, and I appreciate, you know, you being forthcoming on everything. And this insurance thing is not going to go away. It's the elephant in the room. I would contend, you know, we probably ought to have a special session just on insurance. You know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's certainly. It will be interesting to see what we end up being able to do during the regular session. I am not one that believes that we have to do a special session on everything. We go to session for almost 3.5 months this year. So we should be able to accomplish a lot of these issues and address a lot of these issues during that session. But I appreciate y'all's willingness to put out information to the people of Louisiana, and particularly Northwest Louisiana, and your attentiveness to the legislative session. We need people to come and testify, to come share their stories and their personal anecdotes about how insurance rates have affected their business. How, I mean, Duke, your example's a prime one of having to move out of the state, a state that you love. I know you love it, and want to be here, but if you can't afford it, it's going to cause more people to move out of the state. So I completely agree with you that we've got to do more on that front. I'm excited to get to work. I think we've got a great team in Baton Rouge, in the legislature, as well as the governor's office, as well as our other statewide offices. Look, I think we've really turned the corner on making sure that we have conservative leaders in Baton Rouge, and that's a real positive.
All right. Well, we will look forward to having you back on before too long as y'all get a little further into the session. And like Duke said, we appreciate your time. And You're welcome back on anytime if there's something that comes up that you feel you need to get out there and put out there on social media. We'll be glad to help out.
Thanks so much. I appreciate y'all having me on.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thomas.
sir. All right.
So,
Well,
yeah, we went a little longer with Thomas than what maybe we should, but hey, he was hitting on all cylinders there. I really
it's good
didn't find a
information.
lot. I didn't find a lot that I didn't find. I don't know that I found anything I disagreed with him on.
Yeah, I don't. I probably didn't either. I want to get more in depth into the insurance side of it because, he mentioned that he was a lawyer on the insurance side of things, and that kind of gives him a different perspective. And anyway, it'll be an interesting conversation as we get a little more into this insurance thing that everybody's commenting about.
I didn't say it, and I know it had to have been clicking in your brain as too, but my mind was taking me back in time not too terribly long ago with a debate that happened on the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee that both you and I were members of between a state representative and a state senator.
Yes, that would be Alan
one-
Seaball and
Ryan Gaddy.
Yes.
And, it was over some legislation to, supposedly correct insurance. And, well, here we are today. And I don't know that it's, one side won.
Not any better.
And it's not any better.
Yeah. So, yeah, I need to go back and dig that video up. We need to reshare them on
because
Louisiana
here's the thing. That debate is fixing to play out again. It'll be different players.
Same song, second verse.
But it's the same debate going to take place again.
All right, so Settle is showing in the green room. I don't see any video, so I'm going to cue him up and then see. Let's see. I don't know if we just have no video and just audio. John Settle, can you hear us? Paging John Settle. Paging John Settle. We may have to do a call in because this video is not showing. He shows to be, connected and all that, but his video is not showing. So let me switch screens again. If we need to, I can fire up the phone and we can give him the call-in number. If you need that, I can text it over to you.
Well, I messaged him and told him to log out and log back in. I don't know if he's doing that or not.
All right. Yeah, we'll see. He's actually, I think he tried to do that once or twice. But anyway, I'm going to text you, Duke, the call-in phone number.
All righty.
And then if nothing else, we'll have him call in. Let's see here. Let me do that. So
Greg Bell says John needs to pay his utility bills.
Yeah, he needs to pay his video bill. His video connection bill. All right, let's see. This is
and Ferris says, turn up the volume. Can you hear a Zamboni coming?
Okay, here we go. Let's see. Mr. Settle, can you hear us yet? No, John. I don't think he's given his phone permission to the camera and mic, or maybe not his computer. I just text you the call-in number, Duke.
Got it.
All right.
Stand by, folks.
Yeah, a little technical difficulty, but we'll figure it out one way or the other. All right, and I need to fire that up. And
okay, he has
this
it.
Works. All right.
So what we have John Settle, the editor of Focus SB and the Inquisitor, and John is been around. Heck, he's been doing this kind of thing probably I know longer than us, being all up in the middle of government, no doubt, for a long time.
Right.
And it seems that he has a knack for being really involved in the politics of Caddo Parish and Shreveport, especially Shreveport.
Right.
And like our friend Wes Marriott with Sobo Live, I think he has maybe a couple of lawsuits against the city of Shreveport.
He may have. Hey, Duke, text Settle and tell him to give me just a second, and I'll have that phone number ready. So tell him to stand by. I'll text you when it is active. I had to do a couple of little things here.
Waiting on you to say the call. So that's right, Mr. Ferris, the man in the hat. So everybody watching, I see we've got somebody from Florida in Greg Bell. Let's see, I can't see everything here. Ferris from Sobo, Jamie Marie Pope from down there in Central, JB Bradford. Don't know where JB Bradford is. Looks like Ashley Bullock. I know Ashley is a Sobo person. David Bond. I think David's a Sobo person.
Yeah, I think so. All right, he should be able to call in now. Let me test it first. Cue the
Amateur
elevator
journalist,
music.
folks.
Yeah,
Y'all are
well,
seeing it. Amateur journalist.
Literally, we're dusting. Okay, yeah, so it does work. All right. Oh,
All right, he should be
that up.
called.
Yeah, he can call in anytime. He's trying to remote in again, but tell him he can use any phone and just a regular phone call. Call that phone number.
You know, David Bond says, what insurance company has the best rates on vehicles and
Here
residents?
we go.
It definitely ain't State Farm. You know, auto-wise, I can't about State Farm, but I can tell you just literally in the last 2 days, I've had somebody complaining their homeowner's insurance with State Farm.
Yeah. All right. Let's make sure he's on. John, can you hear us?
I can.
Can everybody hear John? We can hear you fine.
Well, good.
All right, so we got you.
Pressley, I don't have anything to offer after you had Pressley on there.
No, he's an expert on all things in the Senate this year. Glad to have you on, and glad to have you on at least by voice. So welcome to the show. Welcome back to Louisiana Watch.
Well, thank you.
Well, John,
So all the go ahead.
Well, I was going to say you are the guy when it comes to Shreveport politics and Caddo Parish politics. It seems like you have your finger on the pulse on things over there.
I'm the Hellraiser, right? That's right.
So, what kind of hell are you raising over there? Because do you have one or two lawsuits, or what is the status?
Well, I just have one. I just have one against Dale Sibley, the registrar, and the case has not been set yet. It's a Judge Lafitte, and he has not yet set my hearing. Dale just is hiding behind a statute that says if you want records of his office, that you have to jump through about 10 hoops. Well, I don't consider copies of blank forms and copies of his office manual and copies of his overtime records. Those aren't records as intended. And so Dale is playing a game, and it's been quite obvious if you follow the trial back in December, and I was there, that his office is doing a very, very poor job. So, what I'm trying to get at is just some basic forms. I don't know if I'll get a court hearing. I'm really hoping that the governor appoints a new member of the election board of supervisors, and I'm working on that. Avallone's working on it. We're trying to get the local delegation, but that's one thing I'm pushing on. I haven't had a lot of success on it, but you got to tee it up before you can ever win anything, So that's what I've done.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you.
But I also have a suit pending against James Green for slander, and I'm just kind of letting it sit there so that the sword of Damocles is hanging over his head. That one's there. So it's a tough job to keep the council straight. Put it mildly.
Yeah, we read about your on Settle Talk a lot and all that about your goings on with the council over there. Seems like you're on them all the time. Is it really? Are they that bad?
Who don't do their job, or who make false records, or who lie to the public. I mean, I just have this philosophy that they ran for the job and they're getting paid with public dollars. And one, they should do the job, and two, they should be truthful to the public. And three, they shouldn't steal. So, I mean, I don't know. I think those are some basic tenets for a public servant, don't you think?
Hey, it's pretty simple.
But well, I'll tell you,
I mean,
I agree with you, John. But I got to tell you, I learned something today that in Bossier, if you're a public official, all you have to do is just conduct the business on your personal cell phone, and then if asked for it with a public information request, just say you can't find it, and you're
well,
scot free.
Bossier's always been the free state of Bossier. I mean, we know that, and the Bossier judges are not that progressive, in my opinion, in their rulings. I have been able to get in Shreveport text and emails on private phones that were used for business, for government business. But I know that West Marriott is having an uphill battle, and that's just because of the bench up there. And but if they're conducting city business on their private emails and or their private cell phones, that clearly is, in my opinion, is discoverable under the open records law. And I've had some success getting that over in Caddo Parish, but it's not easy. I'll tell you that.
So let me ask you on this sheriff's race coming up. Let's see. I forget what date that is, but what's your
23rd March?
All right. What's your feeling on that? Do you have any more faith in the Caddo judicial system, the registrar's office?
I mean, we put a lot of heat on them to make sure that, and the board of supervisors to make sure that they only count the absentee ballots where the ballot flap is correctly filled out. And I've written articles about it. I noticed that the registrar sent out a little press release on how to validly fill it out. I don't know how careful they're checking on that, and I don't know if they're also checking on frequent witnesses. We have one candidate running for the Caddo Commission, and on her Facebook page she says, "Bring your absentee ballots by. We'll witness them." Well, you only legally can witness family members and then one non-family member. So I've had to call out a candidate for the Caddo Commission on that. And so I don't know that I have that much more confidence in the registrar of voters, if that's what you're asking me. No, I really don't. Just because of the attitude he's taken on not providing very basic information to me. And so I don't have a lot of confidence,
Well, John, we had a Secretary of State's race not long ago, and you had one candidate in the race that was saying that, look, our elections, we have some problems. And, you had another candidate saying that, hey, no, we don't have no problems. We have one of the best systems in the country. And, of course, that candidate prevailed. And then here we have the Caddo sheriff's race, and it basically kind of exposed something that quite possibly may be an infection across our whole state. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah, because the voting machines, those records are pretty well kept, and I'm not getting into the voting machine thing, but the real key is these absentee ballots, because when they come in, if they think if the flap is correctly filled out, they separate it from the ballot and throw the ballot in one box and the flap in the other. So once you go in there and you find some flaps that aren't completely filled out, you can't find how they voted. That was the whole problem. That was one of the basis for the ruling by Judge Black in this case. So it still comes down to the human factor with absentee ballots, and more people are using absentee ballots. And they're expecting a tremendous number with the 23rd, with that being the presidential primary. And so that system is not well regulated. There needs to be some legislation on it, and the law is not good. And then on top of that, you've got to rely on human beings, and Dale Sibley is just not cooperating with the public at all. So I wish Ernie Roberson was still over there at registrar, but so the law is it's not written very well, and then you have a registrar who's not doing his job very well, so that's what you get.
Recipe for disaster, sounds like to me.
Well, shit, it was. And look at what they've had to go through with this election. So I don't know how it's going to be on March 23rd, but I've been pushing as hard as I can. I have other things to do besides file lawsuits against public officials, but I'm keeping the heat on with my columns and
Are there are there not any activists in Shreveport? It seems like it's always the media people that have to squeeze.
Well, there's a few, but they really they're not surfacing. We have 2 or 3 over in Bossier, but that I'm the one that's having to pull the train, and I'm not usually getting much help.
That does make it tough, and yeah, you do stay busy trying to stay on them, and it's apparently a full-time job on that side of the river and on the Bossier side.
I spend a lot of time on it, and I'm glad I can. It's just that I wish that I could get some more help, and just like I know the governor has millions of things to be doing, and appointing an election board supervisor in Caddo Parish may be low on the poll, but it's very critical to this upcoming election. The last one was a dingbat who in court basically her testimony showed that she's a dingbat, and then after the court hearing she got on Facebook and just talked about how much she supported Whitehorn and why he should have won, blah blah blah. Well, you're the chairman of the board of supervisors. I think you should quietly or publicly maintain some neutrality, and so that's going to be important that the governor appoint a new supervisor there, and hopefully that can bring a little bit more credence to the situation. But we still have a lot of worries out there as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we appreciate you keeping a close eye on it out there. Duke and I are firing this Louisiana watch back up. We've been busy doing the Bossier watch side, and so we may be reaching out to you some more.
I'm trying to keep, I keep in touch with Sobo West, David Crockett, and the progressive council members, and I'm helping them behind the scenes some. I've looked at some of the litigation that Sobo, that West Marriott was going to file, and I've run some copy on it, but I don't have. I'm focusing a lot of my attention, on Caddo as far as public records requests. Wes is doing a good job over there in Crockett, and I help him out on what to do, and oftentimes give them suggestions on how to get from here to there. But I've had and I did force the resignation of Alan Jackson from
I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah, well, somebody, I don't know who was this guy that requested his timesheets, and then realized that the timesheet showed that he didn't take off enough time to do his council work, and then complained to the university president. I wonder who that guy was. But there's a guy that's stealing money. You're supposed to log out, but when you come over from Grambling to do Shreveport City work and you don't take PTO, personal time off, in my opinion, you're stealing time. Isn't that right?
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. We had and so, those things, there's a lot of that out there, and I try to run it all down, but it takes a lot of effort, as you guys know. You have to push, and boy, over in Bossier, you really do you got a big mountain to climb on some things. So, but I'm helping those guys as much as I can, and I run their op-eds and give them encouragement, and then oftentimes I make public records requests for people that don't want to do it themselves and just get information. So it's a challenge. We all got to stay on it.
Well, we appreciate what you do, and we appreciate
what y'all doing. All right, let me help you. All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Well, nothing like the cat in the hat. He's out.
In and out. And look, we encourage everybody, if you hadn't read the Inquisitor or the Focus SB magazine in a while, since Settle took it over a couple of years ago or whenever it was, he's made some big strides into trying to keep up on the political side. And, I wrote a few articles for him a while back. I think Colonel Crockett is now. So anyway, we encourage everybody to pick up a copy of that next time you're at your local convenience store or grocery store or wherever else they are.
Yeah, so Rex, I think we're going to try to keep these short and sweet
Right.
as we start building content. We're going to try to be focused on having guests. I mean, obviously, we're going to, as time goes on, get deep into issues and other areas. Give you guys a couple of teasers. We've been getting a bunch of information about some things in DeSoto Parish. So, if y'all know folks or people in DeSoto, you may tag them and say, hey, you might want to pay attention to these guys in these next upcoming shows because they're probably going to be talking about some things that have, went on in DeSoto Parish. Um, I will tell you that Rex, the next show, we already have John Nicholson lined up to come on as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
And, probably he will carry on a little bit from where Settle was talking about, the past sheriff's race and the current sheriff's race. He probably will just want to talk about the current sheriff's race.
Right.
But nonetheless, he's going to be a guest. And we're also going to try to keep shuffling legislators in here to talk about what legislation, what bills they're trying to bring, as well as give us some insight on issues that are going on in their communities and their different parts of the state.
Yeah.
So,
well, all right. And so everybody's aware, make sure if you hadn't already, like and follow us on Facebook. You can go over to YouTube, search for Louisiana Watch on YouTube, subscribe there if you want to. We will be on Twitter in the next day or so, and I'll be releasing the podcast versions as well. So, we're going to follow a similar format over that we've been successful with on the Bossier Watch side. So we appreciate everybody watching. And, we've got some pretty big plans for all this. We've kind of talked about it a little bit before, but we're expanding out. We're going to expand our reach in what we're covering. And so Louisiana Watch, again, like we said at the beginning of the show, is going to be more for regional, state, and national stuff and not just Bossier specific. That we'll keep over on the Bossier Watch side.
Yeah, we already have commitments from, I think, 3 or 4 statewide elected officials that are going to come on. We just haven't set the calendar dates yet, but they're going to come on and do interviews, and we're going to talk about issues, that relate to Louisiana in general. Obviously, things like, the crime session, the regular session, insurance, all of those topics, anything. So if any of y'all have recommendations, again, like Rex always promotes, proton mail. If it's something you don't want to put your name to,
Yes, it is a magical thing, and we've gotten a lot of information from that. So it's down at the bottom of the screen down there, and we'll make sure it's on the Facebook page and all that too. But you can just make a free proton mail account of your own. Don't put any identifying information into it, and send us an email to lawatch@protonmail.com. Again, no identifying information, and we get those and we do read them, and we try to check them out. So what's our schedule? Are we going to try to do this, go back to every Thursday night like we did last time?
I think we'll try to keep it up as best we can. If we get a slow night, or either, let's say, there is breaking news in Bossier, and we may have to do a central watch if Jamie Marie Pope is, there's reports of what'd she call that drink?
Was it Italian Mule, South Central Louisiana Mule, something? I don't know.
If they start divvying out free Italian mules in Central, we may have to have a Central watch that night. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to do a remote Central watch. We'll figure that out. Sounds like a plan. All right, Mr. Lowry, got anything else for this evening?
Nope, that's all I have for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into our first Louisiana watch since bringing it back from the dead, and look forward to more in the future.
All right, folks, every Thursday night, just kind of put it on your calendar. Again, like, follow, do all that kind of good stuff. Share this out. We'll be back next Thursday night again. John Nicholson will be the guest, and we'll just see where the conversation goes. See you, Mr. Lowry.
Good night.
We're out of here.